Good evening and welcome along to Online Darts. It's Saturday night, which means it's finals night here at the Online Darts Live League. And today, we're joined by Chris Murphy, who's been commentating for the last week and a bit with a gap in the middle. Murph, enjoyed it?
Yeah, definitely, Phil, and I feel like I've made it now, being on the Online Darts YouTube channel.
I say, Dave, you were on the old channel, but Dave, you're on the new one.
Yeah, exactly. Brilliant. I've really enjoyed it, actually. I thought it might be more difficult than it has been, because obviously it not being what I'm used to the Pro Tour, you think maybe the standard will be a lot lower, but actually it's been quite a decent standard. I've been lucky.
Yeah, obviously we're quite lucky that we can have the best out of the 128 that aren't available. And this week there's been some stellar names for people that have done big things. We've had world champions. We've had obviously Ruthless James Richardson beating Raymond Man Barneveld at Ali Pally. So the standard has been through the roof.
Yeah, you've got Richardson, you've got Jim McEwen, who hit a 9 darter when he went on the Pro Tour against Barney recently. Mark Webster, who's of course a former world champion. Rob Collins, who picked up a Challenge Tour title last year. Richie Burnett, former world champion as well, and the defending champion of the Online Darts Live League. So yeah, they're all still capable. Obviously, you're going to get the odd match where both players aren't quite at it, but they're all showing signs of being more than good enough to compete on the Pro Tour should they get back there.
Yeah, 100%. Welcome along, everyone. As we can see, the chat room is absolutely rammed already. Osborne to win. Greetings from Poland. How are we all doing? Polish Eagle fans in the house, as always. Remember, come and say hi in the chat room. If we don't come to you straight away, we're not ignoring you. We will come to you in due course. But great to have you all along. It's going to be a fabulous night of darts here. Who will win? We'll come on to that shortly. But Group A seems a long time ago now, Chris. But it was decent standard. I'm going to put the table up here now. Topped by Colin Osborne, who had a fabulous run towards the end of Tuesday into Wednesday that catapulted him top. Yeah,
very good standard. Osborne was excellent in the last second half of the event, really half the day on Tuesday and then the full day on Wednesday. The standard, I think going into the last day, every single player was running at an average of more than 90, which is an exceptional standard for an event that is players outside of that world's top 128 Pro Tour players. I was very impressed by Chris Gilliland, who only missed out by 2 points, the mad qualifier. I saw Conor Hennigan the last time I was here. He was very good as well. Yeah. But I think tonight, we'll come on to it obviously later on, we could end up seeing Gilliland as the first mad qualifier to make it to Champions Week. He was very impressive. He impressed me all week. But yeah, it was really competitive and right down to the wire. Colin Osborne did really well just to have that little bit extra.
Yeah, when we look at Burnett and Warburton in the bottom two and Richardson only in fourth, it's quite staggering because they've all got so much pedigree. It just shows you how fierce the competition was in Group A.
Yeah, when I was looking at it, I couldn't really choose who I thought would come out on top. Osborne took that step. Interesting that Osborne is a winner in this kind of setting before, winning the Championship League back in 2009. So maybe a little bit of experience there helped him. There was a brilliant leg of darts between him and Mike Warburton.
Yes.
Fantastic, where Warby had gone 180, 180, and Osborne had left a double after 9. That was actually a leg, I think, that saw him progress.
Yeah.
Amazing leg of darts, brilliant moment. And I think that he might well do what Kevin Burness did a couple of weeks ago, win Group A and then go and progress by winning tonight.
It's interesting. And then obviously we split into the two and the graveyard shift, as it's been dubbed by Mason. Nico, Group C, we'll come on to it there. But it was the Mad Hatter himself, Richie Burnett, that found that extra little bit of quality. The Scorpion kick was in full flow and he's not going to let go of this title easily.
Well, yeah, it was for the first 4 days of the week. And then all of a sudden, on Friday afternoon, Richie Burnett looked as calm as I've ever seen him before and won 4 out of his 5 matches to top the table and get through to finals night. Don't know where it came from. It was almost a shock to the system seeing Richie Burnett not very animated on that final day, but his darts did the talking. Didn't really have any need to start berating himself and, berating his darts and berating the board and all those little tricks that he does. But yeah, he was brilliant on Friday afternoon. And I didn't know that Nico and Mace call it the graveyard shift.
Yeah, they call it the graveyard shift is the if you have to do mornings all week. Matty Denon, shout out for him. He almost pulled the impossible off. He was, fair to say, miles off the pace on Thursday. But then Friday, all of a sudden, with 2 games to go, we're like, is he going to pull this off? He didn't in the end, but came so close.
Yeah, I think perhaps just showed the slight advantage of being in Group A first, because those players that were in Group A just had that little bit more practice, and seemed to be a little bit of rustiness from the 3 players that came in. Steve Perrin, obviously, on his debut, struggled, but Matt Dennant and Josh McCarthy were slow on day 1. Both picked it up on day 2, but particularly Dennant produced some excellent stuff.
Yeah, well, he's got pedigree. We've seen him almost. He's one of those ones that you think he's going to do it this time and just doesn't quite get there, but you can see he's obviously got ability.
Yeah, absolutely. And he was a 2-card holder quite young as well. Yeah. So, who's to say that his best days aren't ahead of him?
Again, before we jump in there, let's put some up gobs in the chat room. Colin Osborne's been absolutely class. I think it'd be a big danger at Q School if he carries this on next year.
Yeah,
that's for sure. Again, all good in there. All right, let's jump. Now, we were here late into the night last night, and there was drama all over the place in Group B. Chris Gilliland, consistent all the way through, and deservedly topped this group. He was the standout and did all the damage on Thursday. But the race for 2 and 3 went down to the wire last night.
Yeah, and there was a point where it looked like Gilliland might not quite get over the line. He only needed to win a couple of games early on. He lost one of them. And you start to think, is this happening? There was a situation where 4 players could have finished on 10 for quite a while. But he had a very good leg difference. It would have taken a miracle. And his consistency just lived in that 85 to 95 average all week, Chris Gilliland. And good value for that place. But yeah, that race for 2 and 3, it looked as if we were going to have the last 4 matches meaning nothing at one point.
Yeah.
But Mark Webster, 2 nights on the spin, loses his first 2 games and then wins his second 2. So he maybe needs to get in for an extra half an hour to practice or something tonight. But yeah, he got a big helping hand from Wes Newton, who had beaten him 4-3 in the last leg decider, who then thumped Jim McEwen 4-1. And then that meant, Webby went through and Rob Collins just needed a leg against Wes Newton in the last match, but went on to beat him 4-0. You've got to feel for Jim McEwen, having been in action and been so close in Group A and then again in Group B, to miss out. You do have to feel for the Scotsman.
Yeah. Touching on Wes, again, lack of match practice, but we saw towards the end of the night last night that once he got into his stride and whatever, that class is still there. And the 1-3-7 really sticks out, because that was the game that Webby thought he'd blown it. He started, I think, 44, and Wes comes along, plops one in 57, tops. Thank you very much, 3-1 lead.
Yeah, shades of the World Matchplay years ago when he produced a massive finish against Paul Nicholson, I think 160. And these players have all still got it in their locker. It's amazing what hitting a couple of doubles can do, and amazing what getting 1 win can do, because once Wes had done that, got that 1 win, hit that 1 double, he started to go on a little bit of a run, but just didn't get going early enough, and the damage was done when he lost all 4 games on Thursday, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's a long way back. The start is so important. Like, you need a minimum of 2 wins on that Thursday to make sure that you're in the hunt on finals day. But Webby, not picked up a dart in a while, as he said, probably the last time that he was here. He said he had 20 minutes or so. But if he can get out of the group tonight, there's a pattern developing here. Start slow, but if he can get out of the group, he's going to be a danger near the end.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? If he can, it's all right saving his best for last, but tonight he needs to get through to get to those semi-finals. If he does that and repeats the trick of what he's done the last 2 nights, then he would be the man to watch, I think, for winning it. Definitely getting through the top 3, I think, if he's in the semi-finals. Mark Webster averaged 106 in one of his matches last night. That's the highest we've had all week at the Online Darts Live League. But for me, the best thing, because I've not had a chat with Webby for a while, I've not seen him throw really since he stopped on the Pro Tour. The way he's throwing his darts for me is really encouraging, because there's none of that struggle anymore.
No.
He's very free flowing, a bit like the old Mark Webster. And if he can start playing himself back into a bit of form, who knows what turn there might be more commentary on offer for me, because maybe it might be back on the hockey. I need Nicholson to do it as well now.
It just shows as well that obviously tonight, it's not obviously every player wants to win tonight, but finishing in that top 3 is huge, because the carrot of Champions Week and £12,000 in prize money on offer for outside that 1-2-8. This is huge for the game, isn't it?
If Richie Burnett were to go and win tonight, get through the top 3 tonight and win Champions Week, it's £11,000 he would have made just from the Online Darts Live League in a matter of weeks. go back through, go through the 128. How many players are making that kind of money?
Not many, that's for sure.
And playing in many more tournaments. So the rewards are there for the players that do have the success. And I think there's some very interesting narratives. Richie obviously being one of them. We've just spoken about Mark Webster, but then you've got James Richardson, who's been close already in the Online Darts Live League. And Chris Gilliland, the MAD qualifier, what story that would be. A player coming through the MAD qualifiers and then making it Champions Week and perhaps taking a cheque for £6,000 though. Yeah,
we'll come on to tonight in a minute, but from obviously you're a darts fan as well as working in the industry, there are a lot of people sceptical about this at the start, but does this just show how good this is for the amateur game, that the fact we've got the MAD qualifiers coming in now, and people are genuinely taking this seriously as a tournament going forward?
Yeah, Chris, if you look at his social media when he qualified, he was absolutely over the moon, said he felt like a kid in a candy store, I think was to steal his phrase. And the players either do take it seriously. There's something to play for. So I think that obviously the very idea of online darts came about because of lockdown and all that kind of thing. And initially it was just to be able to play, but now giving the players something to play for, I think makes a big difference. It really focuses the mind. And players will use this, and we will start to see this over the next year or two as a platform to resurrect their careers or even start their careers for players that we haven't seen before.
Yeah, and with the Challenge Tour starting next weekend, the ones that have been here playing regularly, they're going to be sharp going into that.
Absolutely, and not just the Challenge Tour itself, but a lot of professionals are deciding not to play in all the Pro Tours now, so they're getting top-ups, and you get a player like, for example, Chaz Barstow will be in action in Barnsley next week. He gets shoved on the stream, he's going to have the experience of playing in front of a camera, which I've seen players, even on a floor event, playing really well away from the camera, going in front of the camera. It's not on TV, it's not on a stage, but just the presence of the camera makes them fall to pieces. The players that have been in this will have that experience now.
Well, just look at it, two players without a tour card that have done bits here, Robert Thornton and Chaz Barstow. Chaz at the moment I think he's in a World Championship spot and a Players Championship spot. And Robert Thornton, I think, is only about £500 outside the World Championship spot and non-tour card holders. So it just shows you how much this match practice does do for them.
Absolutely. And Robert had a brilliant run at one of the floor events as well, didn't he?
Yeah, the one in Niedenhausen.
Yeah. And it's just getting it back for a player like Robert, and it's just getting for Chaz, who's not had the experience of being a professional player, it's getting, kind of starting as two good examples, because I think that could happen with a lot of players. We could see it with the likes of Colin Osborne, Wes Newton, Robert Thornton, resurrecting their careers and then starting to build again. But the likes of Chaz Barstow, Rob Collins, Chris Gilliland and the other guys who've qualified from MAD and elsewhere, we could see this really kick-starting their careers.
Yeah, right, here's the bracket of how everyone got there. It shows you the runners and riders and how tonight is made up. So finals night will be Colin Osborne, Chris Gilliland, Rob Collins, Mark Webster, Richie Burnett and James Richardson make up our six. Remember, the top three go through to finals night. And from there we have the two groups, Group 1, Group 2. Two tasty looking groups, these.
Yeah, I think if you asked me, without any knowledge of the groups, if you asked me who was going to go through, I think I would have given a different answer than I would now, having seen the groups. I think it's really difficult. You try and work out who you think is going to beat who, don't you, in your head. But most of the players looking have kind of, when they have met, have beaten each other. So it's really interesting that the groups are set, particularly Mark Webster and Richie Burnett being drawn in the same group. I think that makes for a good story as well. Yeah,
and then from there is the fixtures. That's how they run in order. So first up, Colin Osborne against Rob Collins. And is this vital for Rob? If he wants to get out of this group, he has to get off to a good start. He can't be putting it all into that last game.
I think for Rob, I think the other game for him is important. I actually think Colin Osborne will win both of his games and win the group. I think he was that good. I think he was that much better than the other players. So I think he'll see off Rob Collins and James Richardson, and then have a straight shootout between Collins and Richardson for that final place. So I actually think that Collins can afford to lose that first game. But no one wants to do that, do they? It's always playing catch-up is much more difficult.
How do you see that shootout going then if it goes your way?
Yeah, I think I would just lean towards the experience of James Richardson, who over the course of the week, I think in the early part of the week, particularly in Group A, kind of impressed me. He looked quite solid, but he has had quite 2 or 3 bad matches out of the blue for me. So Depends which one turns up, but I do that's kind of just lean towards that little bit of experience when it comes to the front.
No, I actually agree with you. I think those two come through, but it's Group 2 that I look at and I'm like, for me, Chris Gilliland tops the group.
Okay.
I just think he's consistent. Don't get me wrong, if Richie turns up and goes berserk, he'll win both games, but that's an if. I just like Chris's consistency that I've seen all week, and for me, I think he tops the group. And then it's which Welshman joins him for me. Yeah,
so I would agree based on what we've seen so far. However, I would just add, and maybe ask you the question as well, of whether Chris Gilliland's performance carries on tonight when it means so much.
Yeah.
The inexperience of not being in this kind of position before. We saw it a little bit with Conor Hennigan. I think he finished fourth last time around, so he got through the group. If Gilliland carries on, consistently playing where he is, I think you're right, he tops the group. But I find it a really interesting group because I think Mark Webster's the best player in the group.
Yeah.
I think that Richie Burnett's the one with the most potential to put in the highest variables in performance. So he could be massive or he could be terrible.
Because he won 15 or we could see 77 with him. It's where he finds that spectrum.
And then, as you said, Gilliland's been the most consistent over the course of the previous group and in Group A when he was there. So I find it a really difficult group to predict. I know you're probably going to ask me anyway.
No, we'll come on to that in a minute. But Webster's the one that intrigued me. Like we were chatting, that both days he started slow. If he can find a way to scramble out of this group, he could be a big danger. Like yesterday, I think 106 and then 94 in his last two games.
Yeah.
That's consistent at the highest level.
Yeah, it is. And he beat Chris Gilliland, didn't he, to get through. That would have been a big win for him because Gilliland had been a tough nut to crack for the rest of the players. So to play him first in his first match tonight is probably really important that he got that win against him yesterday. And that Gilliland doesn't feel kind of really comfortable against Matt Webster, knows what he's capable of. But I think you're right. I think it comes down to how early Matt Webster shows up this evening.
One thing that we haven't touched on is the fact, though, that Richie Burnett is king of the Saturday night here at the Online Darts Live League. He's champion of Phase 2. He won the special that we launched Phase 2 with. He just seems to find a way on a Saturday night here in the OD Dome.
Yeah. What is it about Richie Burnett and Saturday nights?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Just king of the Saturday nights here.
Yeah, it's my favourite player to watch out of the.
So infectious.
I think every fan watching it brings something else to the Online Darts Live League. Actually, Richie Burnett, the mule kick. I think at one point, I think the commentary said that it looked as if he kicked his own head with his back foot. It went that high in the air. But anything can happen with Richie tonight. Absolutely anything. But if he carries on, he's the sort of player that probably comes into it thinking Saturday is my lucky night, and that could actually help him if he takes that kind of thought process into this evening. Yeah.
Before we come on to this evening, officer, I'm going to put you on the spot. Let's have a look in the chat room. We've got Mark says Wizards to win it all, quite possibly. He wouldn't back against it, that's for sure. The way he's been playing consistently in here. Where are we? Denver Salmon said Rob Collins has looked better this week. Yeah, Rob's got one of those what I call slingy throws that when it's on, it's on, but when it's off, the radar can go slightly left and right.
Yeah, well put. And I think he's in his own way, he's animated as well. He can beat himself up if it starts to go wrong a little bit. So when he's cool, calm, and collected, when he starts to go straight, I think he's got a chance. But it's when the first start isn't right, but he struggles to correct it.
Weekly Dustcaster in. They're saying good to see you, Chris, as always.
Good to hear from you guys.
And then another one, good to see. Lot of love for Murphy in the house tonight in the chat room. Is there darts next week? We'll come on to that in a second, Mark. How Champions Week is going to work. It's a little bit of a curveball. We had it all planned out. And then there was a curveball thrown against us, but we'll come on to that in a minute. Where is it? Denver says Mark Webster to win tonight. Where is it? A bit of a carpet tonight, yeah. It says evening. That one there. I would guess, I don't know, but getting the streaming stuff out to Germany at the moment is an issue, Chris. Obviously, you work on the Pro Tour. I'm guessing getting everyone and the guys that put the streaming production together is slightly difficult at the moment.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the case. I know that the ones in Milton Keynes and Barnsley will be streamed, but they'll be the most important ones anyway, because the second and third weekends will be streamed when actually the matters are solved for the Grand Slam and the World Championship.
Yeah, Henry is also in as well next week. Great job, fellas. That's our pleasure. Right, moving on to tonight. Who makes semi-finals? First of all, who are the two that miss out?
Going from my previous comments, I think Rob Collins misses out from the first group, and then do you know what? I'm going to go against all logic here, and I'm going to go for the Welsh pair to make it through, and just go on completely no evidence that all of this will happen. I just wonder if Chris Gilliland's performance level might drop a little bit just because of what's at stake.
To be fair, I was sat there thinking exactly the same as you. All logic, when you look at every stat going, says Chris Gilliland will go through tonight. However, I'm with you tonight. Will the experience of the Welsh pair cut it?
Like I can see a situation where Chris Gilliland still averages mid-90s, and the poor lad comes up against Richie averaging 100, Mark averaging 104. Then they play each other and average 77 apiece.
Out. No, I agree. I think Rob misses out just from the other group, but Group 2 is a real fascinating one. Actually, I'm going to go with you. For some reason, I can't, like you said, I can't back it up with a stat, but I just think that Chris might just miss out. But no, don't listen to us. But I kind of agree with you that in my head, I'm saying that Chris Gilliland tops the group, but this is sport. This is pressure in this environment.
I also think if he was in the other group, I would definitely be putting him through. But I think you've just got two players who have got such a good pedigree in this game. That in itself could be a bit overawing for Chris tonight as well.
So from there, where's your title going?
Yeah, so I think I'm going to stay with Colin Osborne to take the title. I know we just had someone in the chat saying the Wizard to win tonight, and I think he's played some actually magical darts this week, and I think that Colin Osborne will take the crown after winning Group A and having his feet up for a couple of days. Yeah,
well, it's interesting, that rest time as well, that we've noticed it, that different players react better and worse. Like Martin Adams loved the 2 days off, being 65 now. He loved doing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 2 days off, came back and it's as fresh as a daisy. But others were like, I think it was Kevin Manetti, was like, just want to play through, keep going.
But still did win, so maybe he wanted to play through, but maybe he was better forward.
I think the other one was Niall Cullen, that played really, really well, but he said he just lost a little bit of momentum by not playing for those 2 days.
Yeah.
So dang it was nice having 2 days off, sat around, but he's lost a little bit of momentum.
Yeah, message to players: bring your darts, put on tour up on your hotel room, and if you get through those Group A, have a practice.
Yeah, completely. So you're going for the Wizard to win overall.
The Wizard to win, yeah, and I think of the four that go through.
Well, 3 to go through.
Yeah, one before semi-finalists. The one that I think might miss out is, you know what? I've just got a feeling, and again, it defies what's gone before, but I've just got a little feeling that it will be Richie Burnett missing out tonight.
Ooh.
Yeah, I think that if Mark Webster, as you said earlier, gets through, then he carries on. He probably gets to the final or wins a third place playoff. I think, I don't know. I've just got a funny feeling that Richie Burnett fluctuates so much from what I've seen in performance. If I'm putting him through to the final and he's played well to get there, then he might be due a bad one by then.
Yeah. I'm going to go James Richardson to miss out.
And who to win? He's not giving us your winner yet either.
Heart versus head. I'm going to go with my heart. I'm going to go Webby to roll back the years and pin double 10 to win it. Look, Webby could go out during the group, but I just look, nostalgia and everything like that. I'd love to see Webby do it. I remember when he came and played the first time, I think he missed out on leg difference. He was gutted, and he thought he'd gone last night. He was like, when he lost to Wes Luton, he came out and I've done him. Like, we were like, no. He was like, oh, and there was that extra spring in his step. So I'm going to go Webby but I can make a case for all 4 semi-finalists to win this.
Yeah.
When they get there. Again, let us know in the chat room who are you going for this evening. But I can't wait. It's going to be a great night of darting action. Remember, 10 o'clock, Sporty Stuff TV and the Online Darts YouTube channel, bringing you all the action in here. Let's jump back in. Where were we? We've done that one. Remember, come and let us know. Right, it says online darts. These days we see so many players struggling that much. Is it mentally? Yeah, look, I think the last 18 months has been tough for players where they were used to playing week in, week out, and that 5 days, not playing for 2 months or whatever it is tough mentally for them to get ready and prep.
Yeah. I think also, only one player can win every tournament as well.
Yeah.
In individual sports, it must be very tough. We're both football fans, and your team can lose 1 week and win the next week and everything like that. But in individual sports like darts, big tournaments, played down to a winner. Only one person's really leaving completely happy. So not winning week after week after week after week must be tough mentally, and wondering when that day will come. I think what's been nice recently in darts is we've seen, some people would argue, because of the lockdown. I'm not so sure I agree with that argument, but we've seen a lot of new winners, not a lot of first-time winners. And actually, I think that while the question there is saying that so many players are struggling, I think we've seen more players than ever thriving as well at the moment.
So I've got an interesting question to ask you about rankings. We'll come on to that when we do the question time. We were talking about it the other day, and there's a bit of a shift, and I'm going to ask you about it. Hope Webster or Burnett win the event tonight from Craig.
A lot of the Welsh.
Yeah, a lot of Welsh love in the chat room. We just touched on this, Denver, but his action looks better than ever at the moment, doesn't it?
Yeah, really nice to watch actually recently. Very quick, very free flowing. I really liked watching Webby in this.
Mike says, give a shout out for the next Super Series event. Would Tyson a good shout? Yeah, look, you wouldn't back against the Polish Eagle in any condition.
Unless he runs into Dimitri van den Berg and all of a sudden cannot find a double for love nor money.
Yeah. Well, here we go. This one. Is Chris Murphy in the main stage? Yeah, look, I think we're going to see Murph come back commentating, because the way the schedule is for you, Nico, and Mace, it's almost impossible for them to all be available. So I think, I guess I'm going to see some more of you come. There's more dates in the diary.
Yeah, I appreciate the comments, Mike, and I'm definitely coming back to do Champions Week anyway, so we'll see you after that.
Yeah. No, she won't be, because the Queen of the Palace is in Champions Week.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about her, because obviously the ladies series has come up. Fallon, during lockdown, has probably struggled more than anyone. She was on the crest of a wave and then just disappeared.
Yeah.
But she's played regularly here, and to get to Champions Week was probably the best we've seen of her since Ali Pali. We had 3 ton plus averages, 2 ton plus averages, 3 high 90s, and it looks as if it's finally clicked again for her.
Yeah, I'll let viewers into a secret. I was fortunate to spend a lot of time with Fallon Sherrock around that World Championship circus, really, when she won that first match and then went on to do it again. And to be honest, of all the dart players that I spent time with, Fallon's right up there in terms of mentality.
Yeah.
She's got one of the strongest mentalities of any sports person that I've ever met. So I think that while it has been tough on her, she's probably one of the best equipped people to deal with it. And the way she won, when she won her week here, was incredible. To go out as weekly champion and put in some fantastic performances, she'll be a real danger at Champions Week. And then at the Women's Series as well. And what a sequence of events it could be, because you've got Champions Week in a couple of weeks, timed perfectly for these 3 weekends of Women's Series events that could really help. Just going back to the conversation we had earlier on. Yeah,
well, you could see her getting to the Slam, back to Ali Pali, and almost complete a 2-year circle for her, where the crest of the wave was so high it was unreal.
Yeah.
And then the crash of losing all the World Series events that she was scheduled to do, but to get to the Slam and the Worlds again would complete that circle.
Yeah, and for me, making it 12 events favours her. It favours her and Lisa Ashton.
100%.
Makuru Suzuki if she enters. But Dita Hedman did fantastic to get through that weekend. I was covering the event with Colin Lloyd myself. She did absolutely brilliant. Fallon was, I think, finished 11 points and missed out.
It's a leg difference or whatever it was.
Yeah, 4, I think, in the end. Something so close. I mean, we went out of abacus speeds that day, trying to work out who was going to get through. But I think the longer the event is, and this counts for any event in any sport, that the best players have the advantage.
I completely agree with you. I think it's great that they have extended it, and giving the ladies opportunities, because the question comes up a lot of times. Darts is probably one of the most equipped sports that men and women can go head to head. And long term, I agree with that. But fundamentally, the ladies' game, it's just my opinion, I don't know what you feel on this, is probably about 10 to 15 years behind the men's game. I think going forward, we will see men and women competing regularly because of the JDC, the Dev Tour, And I think long term, we will generally see them competing head to head. But
Yeah.
in the short term, I think the ladies need that boost to bring their game up because it's been neglected for so long.
Absolutely. And if in any walk of life, if people, if a certain section of society, or in this case of a sport, have been neglected, then they need that leg up in order for it to be a fair playing field at some point. Sometimes, you do need to just create opportunities, give people more chances sometimes, because otherwise you're just going to be putting the lady players, like Lisa Ashton has done, into Q school, and it's just going to take such a long time. It could still happen. You get the likes of Lisa, maybe Fallon in the future, maybe Makuru in the future, qualifying through Q school, and then just slowly growing. But then they're kind of paving the way for future players rather than having a success themselves. And I think the PDC have done exactly the right thing, giving this opportunity, but still not separating the tour and saying, actually, that's the women's tour, this is the men's tour. It's an extra chance for the women players.
Yeah, no, I agree. I just think it's been neglected for that long that it's a good 10 years behind the men's game. And I think it will get there. And like you say, the JDC, the fact they're all on one, the Dev Tour, that they're all on one is a great thing. So long term, I think it works.
Yeah, and I think one day we will be looking at the game when we've got maybe a female player in the top 10 and the challenges for the world title. And we go, what a great game it is. Darts is so unique that men and women can share the same stage. But we have to do this in the meantime to make that a real...
Yeah, I completely agree with that stopgap. And I say Matt and the team have been superb. And I think Fallon's going to be a huge danger in Champions Week. We'll come on to Champions Week in a minute, folks, as well. Problem with his shoulder. Yeah, it's just old age, as he calls it. He says if he gets his cream out in the morning, it's just pure old age wear and tear on a legend of the game that's been playing for that long at 65. We can give him a few aches and pains.
Yeah, it's great. It's great to see the likes of Matt and some of the older guys in this event as well, because they've still got it, but it does take its toll, doesn't it?
A lot of love for Webby in the chat rooms, and I think he's paying people to jump in. I think.
Rightly so. What's the username? Webby182.
Give the ladies more chance to play. Yeah, completely agree. We're just touching that, but we'll put the comment up. How important is the women's super? Yeah, it's huge, but for them, they've got prize money to play for. It's more experience. So yeah, absolutely huge. Right, we'll come.
That's it for darts as well, folks. Let's not forget that run that Fallon Sherrock had at the World Championship did more for darts in 2 matches than any world title for any player who's done the previous.
Darts has never been on the front page of an American newspaper before until she did what she did.
Exactly,
it is the thing. And now we're going to Madison Square Garden. Fingers crossed.
Yeah,
next year. So yeah, it was an absolute iconic moment for the sport. When
that wouldn't have happened without some form of women's qualification system.
No, exactly that is the thing. So Champions Week. You have to excuse the dates on there slightly because there was a curveball thrown. It was supposed to be the 9th, but the PDC dropped the European Tour qualifiers in for the non-tour card or the associated members.
Yeah.
Let's get the technical term right. The associated members, and being that we have a lot of associate members playing in this and have qualified, what we're going to do is there will be no play on the Monday. However, Tuesday and Wednesday, we have got 2 bumper sessions. So the 15 games from the Monday will be split and added to the Tuesday and Wednesday morning session. So 9:30 till probably around 4-ish.
Yeah, you're talking 22 and 23 games.
3 games thing. So we've got 2 bumper sessions on Champions Week on the Tuesday and Wednesday.
Yeah. Part of me's looking forward to it, part of it's not. It's a little hot room and I need to drink a lot and
water and caffeine,
and then try and get to the toilet at some point as well. So I'm not sure how they're working it, if there is going to be some sort of break as well in play or not, but it will be a marathon session of darts. But I think it's exactly right, the reason why it's been done, because one of the things that the online darts live league is about is giving players opportunities. By giving players opportunities, you don't want to deny them opportunities.
That's what I mean. Because obviously we've got a lot of associated members playing.
Yeah.
To be fair, it's not right for them to choose between qualifying for a European Tour or coming here when they're both important to their career.
Yeah, absolutely. I do think that it will be interesting to see which players thrive playing more and more and more and more. Players perhaps who've had success on the Pro Tour in the past, or maybe even more so players who had success on things like the European Tour, because even on the Pro Tour, not playing as often as you are at these events. So, stamina will come into it. Darts fitness, as I think Mace and Paul would call it.
Yeah, I know. I'm completely with you on that. And it's going to be an interesting turn of events to see how that all plans out. But that's how Champions Week is going to work. 2 big sessions Tuesday and Wednesday, and then Thursday, Friday, exactly the same. It will then be split. We'll have Group B and C in the morning and evening, and then the grand final on the Saturday, where £6,000 is on offer for the winner, £12,000 in total. That's how Champions Week is going to work. So no darts this coming week after tonight because of the Pro Tour. Again, most of our team are in and around darts, so it's almost impossible for us to do. And plus, we don't want to go head-to-head with the PDC either. It's about showcasing darts in general. So no darts for us this week, and then Champions Week returns the week after.
Yeah, looking forward to it. And obviously, myself and Paul Nicholson will be commentating on the Pro Tour next week anyway. So, we'll I've got a day off on Sunday, but then back in Barnsley next week and watching some of the lads who they'll be fighting it out for a £10,000 first prize.
This is an interesting question. I'm going to put it up because we don't shirk stuff here. Then the PDC players complain about too many games in the Euro Tour qualifier. Look, this is just my opinion, that I don't think it was right putting 3 Euro Tour qualifiers straight after 4 days of Pro Tour action. I think it was a little bit poor planning, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it's difficult because it had to happen at some point.
Yeah.
There's an argument that you could have said, let's put the qualifiers before the Pro Tours. That might have been a bit different because I think players that were fatigued might have just decided, you know what, I'm not going to play the last day of the Pro Tour, but they would have felt they had to play the qualifiers for the Euro Tour because it's so important in qualifying for things. European Tour is very lucrative in terms of prize money. As it's turned out, we're not sure exactly how many Euro Tours we're going to have in the end. I do think that the players did have 5 events in the Super Series last year, so some of them would have been used to it. But then what we forget, and I think that's where it's a fair point, is that the majority of players lose first round. Half of the field goes out first round. So on each of those 5 days, you're not sitting around for long periods waiting to play again. That's
what I think they were saying, that the fact if they lost early in the ET qualifier 1, they had then had 4 hours before qualifier 2. Or 4 hours when they played again if they were first on in the one and then late on in qualifier 2. Was that period in between?
Yeah, I think hindsight's a wonderful thing, and I think
of course,
you can look at it in a couple of ways. But I think maybe some you win, some you learn, and maybe next time it'll be before the Pro Tour if it came up like that. If they need to try and squeeze it in the same way they have that way.
Whilst we're talking about this, my point to you about the rankings. The fact that we've had no Euro Tour for the last 18, or proper Euro Tour for the last 18 months, where we're used to 13 events, there's some players that could probably bank on winning between £50,000 and £70,000 on that Euro Tour. Because they're always in and around last days, whether that's winning them, semi-finals, final, they're always there. 13 events, they're always picking up money. Now we've seen a big change in the rankings. Established players are now sliding because there's no Euro Tour. We've seen a real change in the ranking over the last 18 months because of the lack of Euro Tour action.
Well, Gary Anderson's got to be laughing all the way to the bank.
Oh, he's loving every minute of it.
Get to the World Final, and then there's no Euro Tour for most of the year. A guy that wouldn't be playing in them, so that's helped him hold a high-ranking position. And normally he's one that might fall because he doesn't play in the Euro Tour, and not the other boys around him are picking up money. I think in terms of rankings, Michael van Gerwen, Peter Wright are the guys that usually pick up the money, and they're still in the top 3 anyway. But there are players, as we said, that had spells of weekly quarterfinals all the time. Maybe you like Darryl Gurney, someone like that.
Ian White's someone that springs to mind. It's nice to have the top 16. That was always on a final day of the Euro Tour.
Won a couple, won 3 actually, won 2 in the same ranking cycle. So I think that I think you are right on that. I'm very interested actually in Michael van Gerwen's approach, because I've got a feeling that when him and his wife Daphne had the second child, that the plan for Michael would have been to do all the Euro Tours and fewer Pro Tours.
I agree.
Because they're more lucrative to him and they're often closer to home. But actually, as it's worked out, he's had to travel to Pro Tours and maybe not really had the hunger to fight for some of those events. When at the Euro Tours, you're usually really up for it and in front of a crowd, and it's very similar to a major TV event in terms of when you're in the arena. So I think it has affected a lot of the players in different ways, not just in terms of ranking, but just in terms of the whole planning for the year.
Also, with the Euro Tour at the moment, we only know of two, definitely. If they were the only two to take place, and that's an if, we don't know this yet, would it be right and fair to have the European Championship finals done off of just two Euro Tour events?
It's difficult, isn't it? Obviously, they'll want to have the European Championship finals, but you're talking about what criteria do they use for the
that's what I was getting. The finals are always going to happen. But it's that criteria of doing it.
Because the answer in short is no. But then if you turn the question around and say, okay, is it fair to put people in the European Championship that didn't qualify for the European Tour events, and is that fair either? And the answer to that is also no.
Yeah.
So somebody somewhere is not going to be happy, whatever the PDC decide to do. I'm sure they'll work with the PDPA and think about what is the fairest thing to do.
Oh, yeah, of course. There's no right or wrong answer. So I'm just playing devil's advocate as a fan and a pundit more than anything that we look at these things. It's like, what's right and what's wrong here.
But also it's an opportunity, and the PDC and these Matchroom Sports are the masters at making sure that the product is the most watchable thing, and it's an opportunity for the best players to be in the tournament if they do decide to go the way of the world rankings rather than the European rankings this time.
We were laughing about this. Ironically, Gary Anderson potentially might be in the European Championship finals without playing the Euro Tour for 5 years if they went that way.
And I'd have to delve down into the rules as well. It might be that they are bound. They might have to go to the European if that's what they've written into their own rule book. Which would be interesting if there have been only two, because you could get a lot of big names.
Well, a lot of big players that haven't qualified for the first two. And I know we mentioned him before. Ian White is one that jumps out like a sore thumb, that is always there, but he hasn't qualified for any of them.
Yeah, exactly. And also with the way things are at the moment, travel restrictions, where the Euros are going to be, and vaccination problems now and stuff like that. Whatever qualifying criteria you have, there might be dropouts and people who decide not to go, people who actually can't go. So you could end up with any combination of 32 players in that event. Yeah, look, it's weird times and has been. It's just interesting to see how these all play out in real scenarios. Yeah, it is really interesting. I think had there been 4 to 5, maybe. So I think 4 or 5. I agree. I think that's we go, but 2 I think is a little bit thin icing. Just my opinion, but I think 2 is probably end up in a scenario as well where someone's going to have to miss out on a tie in a ridiculous 12-way countback scenario. If say you get the same 2 finalists in the 2, that's going to be very likely. You've got a lot of players on the same amount of ranking money further down. So that's an interesting one. Good luck sorting that one out. Right, let's jump back into the chat room as always, because you guys have been absolutely superb today. Not ignoring you, we're just having a good old chin wag. Right, we've done that one. Let's have a look. Done that one. Missy says, I'm enjoying the chat as always. Not a problem. Ryan, no live league next week off, and then Champions Week returns. 12, they're all 12 this time, aren't they? 12 p.m. start. They've thrown a curveball. They've been the first. They're always 2-2, and then the final ones at top of curveball. They all start at 12 this time. That's the normal time. It's again slowly moving towards normality in so many areas. And starting at 12 is one of those. Reece says, "Hey guys, hi mate, how you doing?" Henry says, "How important will it be day one coming into Champions Week? Tiredness and fatigue at the end of a long day." Yeah, look. Again, we've touched on darts fitness could be key here. Yeah, and if we've seen, just talking about Group B, which is a much shorter form match of the day, but Chris Gilligan having a wonderful day one, Wes Newton having a terrible one, and they kind of both won and lost then. If someone has a really bad day one, being tired, and then having to play 22 matches, sorry, not 22 matches themselves, but being 22 matches over the course of the day, then part of that's going to be really difficult, even extra difficult for them to fight themselves out of that hole. Yeah. Reece, no live lands Monday, but there will be a Super Series stream as always. So I don't know this, but I would be absolutely flabbergasted if she wasn't. Yeah. I don't know, but I would not put my hands on it. Yeah, I'd assume she would be. Yeah. She, playing in this has given her another lease of confidence as if she needed it. I'm sure she didn't, but yeah, it'd be great to see in the challenge too. Yeah, but yeah, just obviously touching on it here. I've got a picture teed up as well. Peter Wright winning the World Matchplay since the last time we've spoken. It was almost unreplayable.
that week. I say almost because although you look in round one, the Danny Noppert score looked comfortable. Danny missed a lot of darts at a double. I'm not saying he beat Peter Wright, but that was maybe the one chance that Danny Noppert carved opportunities out to have darts at a double that Peter Wright gathered.
Yeah, I think that happened actually in the semi-final as well. Michael Van Gerwen missed darts at double early in the match.
Yeah, there was one for 5-all.
Yeah.
And then I think Michael was sat on a double and didn't Peter Wright take out 1-4-9 to go 11 to stretch the lead again. They were the two moments that spring to mind.
I think you're right with the Danny Noppert one because it was the shorter format of the when it gets to first to 16, 17, 18, early in the match doesn't matter as much. But Peter Wright, I've heard the word Taylor-esque bandied about, and I think that's quite a good description because nobody's really won the title in that way other than Phil Taylor. Never won any title in that way other than Phil Taylor. I think the only time I can really recall Michael Van Gerwen doing it was when he won his second world title. When he just blitzed everybody in the field.
And the UK Open, the last one at Minor, was it 2020 when he went berserk? Nathan Aspinall round one, then Rob Cross with a monster average, Darryl Gurney with a monster average. That was a high tournament. It was 107, something like that. Tournament.
If I'm right, I think he had a pretty close semi-final with Price.
Yeah, but again, good average.
Good average, but close game. In terms of dominating your opponent, I think Peter Wright, it was a Taylor-esque performance, and he almost throws darts in a similar way. It's not the action is nothing like it, but Peter Wright, he talks about this himself.
Places the knee.
Yeah, it just does look like that, doesn't it? It's the precision. Aiming for tiny little bits of the bed at times. Peter Wright has got darts that he's happy with.
For how long?
And so put a lick of gold paint on a set of darts, and all of a sudden he feels like he's on top of the world. He's been threatening this for some time. 2 years ago at the Matchplay, he came on with a credible winning.
The form of his life coming into it. But Darryl Gurney couldn't miss ton-plus finishes in that quarter-final.
So I think it would have been a shame if Peter Wright's career come to an end without him winning the World Matchplay. But I think that is probably, outside of Michael Van Gerwen and Phil Taylor, the best performance I've ever seen for a player to win a title.
Yeah, I don't disagree. It was fabulous to watch. And like you say, he never looked in any real danger.
Yeah, there's nothing to say that even if Michael Van Gerwen had got closer to him in the other stage of that match, Peter Wright wouldn't have still won because his level didn't really seem to drop, did it much? He averaged more than 105, I think, in like three of the games. He was the 100 teams for long spells of matches, and he's shown he's capable of just keeping up that relentless performance, leg after leg after leg. He's not a surge player, Peter Wright. He's
once it's at that level, it just doesn't drop.
You're probably like me in this. I'm Sado, and I watch old matches on YouTube. I was watching the World Matchplay semi-final from, I think it was 2013, between Adrian Lewis and Michael Van Gerwen. And both players at that time very much went on little runs of legs, 3 or 4 legs, where they went ballistic. But what happened in that match, they both did it at the same time. But Peter Wright doesn't do that. He stays at a high level consistently, and that is very effective.
Oh, one for you there, Chris, from Missy. Who does Chris think we're going to win the Supers?
Well, we've got 3 events coming up this week. The last one was very interesting because we had a lot of unexpected names. Chris Dobey winning his first title, Ross Smith winning his first title, Stephen Bunting winning his first title in 5 years, and Peter Wright then won. Actually, just before I answer that question, I think sometimes people say the Pro Tour doesn't matter that much. I think that match was very significant in what followed at the World Matchplay because Peter Wright, in winning that final, stopped Michael Van Gerwen taking a title to the World Matchplay with him. And it was almost like a transfer of confidence. Here's some confidence in the middle.
Let's see who runs off the Blackpool with it.
Exactly. And Peter Wright did that, and it was a kind of double win for him. So I think that we'll see Peter Wright pick up one of those titles. I think we will see somebody come from nowhere and pick up one because that seems to be the pattern. Who will that be? Well, let me try and think. I've been calling for to win a title for a while. I'll come back to that one. I think we'll see Peter Wright win 1, maybe 2, and then there's loads of times that I've said I think someone's going to win a title. Let's go for. Right, I'm going to pull a name out here that might surprise a lot of people. Because it's not a new kid on the block, and it's someone who hasn't won a title for many years. But I'm going to go for Vincent van der Voort to win a title.
He's been threatening. To be fair, he's been in and around quarterfinals and everything like that, and playing some good stuff. Is Big Vincent that doesn't like any venue in the UK and everything like that. No, it's interesting that Just touching on what you said there, Wayne, about the Pro Tour wins for obviously Stephen Bunting, Ross Smith, and Chris Dobie. Did that also come knowing that they probably had to win titles to get to the match play as well? That nothing else but a win would do for them.
Yeah, interesting. Stephen Bunting in particular spoke about that he went there with the intention of getting to the World Match Play. It was almost like that being his target. He won a title almost by accident. It was almost a side effect of him attempting to get to World Match Play, because that was where his focus was. Chris Dobie, of all players, I think, showed incredible courage to go and take that title when he did, because not only had he been knocked off the sort of Geordie top spot by Callum Rhodes and Ryan Joyce in winning titles before him, but he kept missing out on big tournaments right on the cusp of qualification. So to get there by winning the event, I think was fantastic. Ross Smith, I think, actually has been knocking on the door for a while. I think he's put in some excellent performances. Actually, mainly on the TV. He beat Michael Van Gerwen at the European Championship, of course, and I think he's improving and improving. So we might well see him pick up another title next year or two.
Yeah, it's certainly going to be interesting. And these blocks, are you a fan of that?
Yeah, definitely. I think for me, I think the 5 days was a little bit too long, but I think the 3 or 4 day blocks, particularly when there is a major tournament just around the corner.
I like the race to whatever it is.
And often, nearly everyone's still got a chance by winning a tournament, whereas before, when you had 2 weekends, even winning a tournament might not be enough to get one of the outside players in. And so I just like it in terms of the race to get in. And also it allows players to play themselves into form. Peter Wright has won the last one, I think 3 of the Super Series this year now, which is quite incredible. We were calling the janitor, and Paul Nicholson at the last one just comes in and cleans up. On
don't back in Fanny, but just day 3, Peter Wright wins.
And I think I don't know if it does mean that we see more shocks as well, because the players, they've got a little bit more time. So maybe you get some players who are a bit more relaxed on the first few days, but then more focused towards the end.
Yeah, here we go. No, the World Cup is
World Cup, yeah. Well, that's going to be an interesting one as well. To see who's paired with who, isn't it? I've got no idea who's going to be in that event or not. I heard Peter Wright said he was definitely going, but
trying to talk Gary into going, and and obviously, like you said earlier, vaccinations and COVID passports and all that now coming into play and everything like that. So that's going to be another scenario to tick off, not just for the World Cup, but for all the Euro Tour, European Championship, World Series finals.
Absolutely, yeah. September is the World Cup.
Yes. I'll put you on the spot here.
I think Dave Chisnell for years and years and years was the next new major winner. In fact, go back to 2012, and it was Dave Chisnell, Peter Wright, and Peter Wright's gone on and won, several now. And then Michael Smith, in many people's eyes, is the best player to not pick up a major. He's won a TV title of one of the World Series stage events, but to me, that's not the same thing. But I would say on current form, that I would have to lean towards Chizzy, particularly after watching him at the World Championship and that demolition of Michael Van Gerwen.
I disagree. If I hadn't watched the World Match Play, I'd have gone with that. But watching the World Match Play, I've swung the other way. That I saw Chisnell's game dip. Yeah. But I thought Michael Smith, there was real improvements. Yeah,
I think one thing as well is that Michael Smith probably holds on to scar tissue a little bit more than Dave Chisnell does.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
Give them both 3 darts to win a major. Who hits it? You think Smith hits it? I think that the scar tissue might come in, and I would go for Chisnell. But it's a game of opinions.
That's why we love it, isn't it? It's like it would be boring if we all agreed in that.
We get the chance. Let's get them in the World Grand Prix final against each other, and then we can see who's right.
Just touching on what you said there, it's one that comes up a lot as well. And would you like the PEC to categorise the tournaments? This thing of they're all TV tournaments, as Barry once said. Would you like them to come out like in tennis and golf and other sports? Right, these are the, if you want to call them premier majors, what you want to call them. But would you like them categorised so we know where things stand?
I can understand why they haven't. For the growth of the game, because to call everything a major is helpful in that sense, even though the BT don't call them majors themselves, it's premier events or TV tournaments. But I think we're at a stage now where darts is big enough. They've done an amazing job to get darts to where it is. Actually, I think it would be helpful to categorise them. Certainly from a selfish point of view, they're helpful to us commentators and people like yourself who work as journalists around the game and can talk about it. So I think a clear difference for those big 4 sort of major events like we do in tennis and golf, etc.
Yeah.
And then you have a second tier of maybe Premier events, and then you've got your European tour, Pro Tour, etc. And I think that would actually help as well rebalance a bit of the ranking prize money, because if we're going to stay on this ranking system, I think you do need to see the World Matchplay, the World Grand Prix, etc., start to move a little bit nearer the World Championship.
That's what even Michael Van Gogh, and obviously he always does well in the world. Even he says the rankings isn't fair anymore because the world is so top heavy compared to everything else.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think that the worlds, of course, should be the heaviest weighted.
Yeah.
But there's been this real, and again, it's part of growing the game, this real rush to try and get the World Championship prize money's £500,000, eventually to £1 million that Eddie Hearn's talking about now. But we focus on the other events as well to just balance things out a bit, I think is needed. Not necessarily all of the other events, but I think in isolating 3 or 4 big ones as the major Grand Slam events, if you like, then you can start to see a real tier in terms of ranking money and rankings and stature of events, because the players know, don't they? The players know.
Me personally, I'd like to say that the world's there, standalone.
Yeah.
Nothing. And then underneath it, 4 majors, whatever you want in brackets, then the Premier events, Euro Tour. That's how I would like to see it.
I think one of the difficulties the PDT have got in doing that is that some of the events that are as big for the fans and players are not ranked. So you've got the Premier League, where do you put that in that scenario? But I think that's one of the difficulties with defining things in that way for the PDT. But I do think it would be helpful for many, many reasons. And I think the game's big enough now that they don't have to sort of call everything a major event, put everything on the same par to make it appear something perhaps that it's not. I think that, that fans that are in darts now kind of separate them in their own minds. People might have a difference of opinion about one of them or so.
But the majority, we know roughly.
Exactly. And there's no doubt that the World Championship is the biggest and the World Matchplay is the second biggest.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, unbelievable, guys. We've waffled for nearly an hour. That's absolutely flown by. Remember, we've got work to go and do, so we only limit to an hour. Chris has got to go and do all his notes and get all the stats. But it's been an absolute pleasure chatting to you. You in the chat room have absolutely smashed it today. It's been really good. Chris, can't wait to see you on Commons again this evening. Remember, 10 o'clock, Sporty Stuff TV and the Online Darts YouTube channel. Who will join the rest in Champions Week? 3 spots up for grabs, and who will be crowned Champion of the Week? Find out from 10 o'clock, and we shall see you all very, very soon.